Hello and welcome to another episode of Dela's Voice. I am super excited for today's guest. He's awesome. I waited a while for this, okay? My guest today is a big shot in the world of media. He is 7 times national award-winning publicist. He is author, speaker, coach, entrepreneur. His journey from the newsroom and over 15 years of experience makes him a powerhouse in his profession. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Bruce Serbin on Dela's Voice. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Dela. Thanks for having me today.
It's awesome to have you here today. Thank you for making the time to be here today. I'm so excited to learn more about you, about what you do. First of all, what you do in the world of media, but so much more because you've got so much to share, and your story is fantastic. First of all, I want to introduce you to the audience. I know a little bit about you, not too much. But we'd like to get to know who Bruce Serbin is, because after all, we want to know everything about you. Keep in mind, we only have 1 hour. So,
Well, I don't know if you want to know everything, but
well, you pick and choose. So, okay, so let me start by this, Bruce, okay? Let's start by asking you, who is Bruce Serbin? Where did you start? And how did you get here?
Sure. So it's funny, growing up, I was one of those kids who knew exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up. I knew I wanted to be on television. I wanted to be a journalist. And I actually made that, dream a reality. And, out of school, started with an internship in television news and then worked my way into a full-time position doing that. And after about, 5 or 6 years of local television news, it really started to get to me. I started thinking, look at the stories we're covering, the car accidents and the murders and the drug busts. And I'm like, this is pretty depressing stuff. There's got to be something better out there. And like a lot of people in the journalism world, kind of crossed over into the field of public relations. So I still got my media fix, still got to work with journalists. And this time I was only helping, people get featured in more positive, stories in the media, really helping them be seen as experts in their fields. That's one takeaway that I always got being in the newsroom. Even though I didn't like the stories we were covering, the people or the experts that we were turning to for insights, it was like, wow, they're really getting something out of being on television and now being in those shoes to help people, break into the media. I like it a lot better on this side, but a little bit more about me. So now I'm a publicist. I specialize in working with authors, entrepreneurs, and really just all different types of experts in different fields. And I help them, build their profiles, build that visibility and that credibility, so they can be seen as the authority, as that go-to expert in their field.
So you empower people. That's what you do. You empower people who have something to offer to the world, and you just make them be seen better. You put them in the spotlight.
Exactly. We all have something that's worthy of being seen, I believe. And right, it's just now a matter of taking that and putting it out there for the world to see. Whether it's something professional, in your professional career, whether it's just a real inspiring, just an amazing personal story, whatever it is, it's just helping bring light to that thing, whatever it is.
You have worked with some really cool people. So what are some of those names that?
Oh boy, yeah, some really, really fun ones. Let me think. Kevin Harrington, he's one of the original sharks on Shark Tank. Super nice guy. Learned so much just, in working with him. I did a project with the band One Direction. That was pretty cool. Nick Cannon was a really fun one. I did this project with him, And my funny story, I got to tell you a funny story about
Yeah,
Nick.
tell me. I love stories here. Okay.
Okay, so if you know Nick Cannon, right, you've probably seen him. He used to host America's Got Talent, and
Yeah,
he
really
always has
cool
like the
guy,
different
down to earth.
hairdo going,
Yeah,
right? Some days he's got no hair, other times he's got the big afro going.
yeah.
I'll never forget, this was a time where he had like really practically no hair. And we're sitting in this green room at a TV station in San Diego, California, and he just looks over, he says, "Hey bro, how's my hair?" And I'm like, "Nick, I've got more hair than you've got, and I'm losing mine." So, but no, super nice guy. And yeah, definitely met some really interesting people along the way.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. I think for a lot of us, like we look at all these famous people or these celebrities from the outside, and we think, oh, they've got it all, like, wow, what a wonderful place to be. But I think you've had more, probably a little bit of a deeper look into the lives of some of the celebrities, and so you can appreciate that all of us as human beings, we kind of go through the same things.
We do, and it's funny when I've worked with a lot of these people. It's one thing that I've realized is they're just like you and me.
Mhm.
They have the same problems, the same challenges. I mean, sure, they're very well known. Maybe some of them are very wealthy, just, very successful people. But, they still, eat, breathe, drink, just like, we all do. They still have their share of things that they have to deal with. And, sure, they've got the fame and the notoriety and, everybody knows who they are. But really, they're just like, everybody else, really.
It's true. We all worry. We all get anxious. We all have fears. We all have doubts. Like
We do.
we feel emotions. Bruce, you have a book that you have published in the media world, and it is considered like the Bible.
I don't know. I'm not a prophet or anything like that.
As far as the media goes, how did you first of all, how did you come up to write that book? I mean, you have years of experience, of course that helps you, but how does a person write such a big book?
Okay, so you're talking about my first book, which is
Yes.
this one, the 30
Yes.
Reasons the Media is Ignoring You. And yeah, what happened was after kind of going out 2008, 2009, I went out on my own, started my own company, been doing that ever since. And, a couple of years into that, I decided, I want to write a book. I want to put my knowledge into something that can help everybody, because I recognize, working with a publicist, it's an added expense, it's time consuming, and it's not necessarily for everybody. So I thought, if there's a way that maybe I can just, kind of give back and put my knowledge onto paper. And that's why I wrote this book. And it's just a great guide that you can pick up, and it might not turn you into a professional publicist, but it'll certainly give you some good tips, some good takeaways of things that you can start implementing in your business to try to generate some media coverage.
I love that it says, this is the subtitle, Deathbed Confessions of an Award-Winning Publicist.
And it was funny because when I put that out, I had a couple of people call me up and like, "Are you okay? You're not dying. You're not going anywhere." And my wife wasn't thrilled about that one. She said, "I can't believe you just said that," right? But the reason I did that, just a little backstory behind it, is because everything in media, it's all about grabbing attention and standing out from the crowd. So I kind of did that just to have a little bit of fun. And, I didn't want to write just another, how-to media book. I wanted something that might stand out from the crowd of media books. So I had a little fun with it.
Well, sure. I mean, you're a publicist. You should know that, right? And I mean, a lot of people write great books, and then the title is not very grabbing, and so they sit there on the bookshelf, and people pass them by. Because so this. What is the first thing a person looks at when they pick up a book and they look at the book? What entices them to buy the book?
It's the title. It's what is this called? That's the very first. That's I would say that's almost half of it. I mean, sure, you want the book to, you want a solid book, a book full of good content, good stories, but the way you market it and what you call it, that's what's going to grab somebody's eye. And right or wrong, you could have the best book in the world, but if it's got some, real boring title, it's just going to get lost. That isn't going to, encourage people to want to find out more. You've kind of lost the game. So the title is so important, and so is the design. All of that plays a huge role in the book writing process.
Awesome. So you wrote this book, and it has helped a lot of people. Obviously, from what I hear, people calling it the Bible of. So for sure, that's been really helpful. So in your opinion, because you know the stuff, how important is it for a person who is trying to make a name for themselves to write a book?
I think it's really important because a book says something. It sends a very powerful message. I think it's instant credibility, if you will. It's like, it's something that separates you from other people in your industry. Think about how many publicists are out there, how many accountants are out there, how many doctors are out there. But then you could say, well, how many of them have written a book? How many of them are authors? And, all of a sudden it's this defining thing that separates, one professional from the next. So, at the same time, while I certainly wanted to give back and educate people more about what I do, I also did it because I wanted to stand out. I didn't want to be just another publicist. I wanted to be known for, okay, I've also written a book, and that certainly has helped. I'll tell you, it's made a huge difference when I'm bidding, for some projects and I'm up against other publicists or other public relations firms. When I can go in there and I can drop my book on the table, I don't do that. It's not an ego thing for me at all, but it does give me some credibility. And I'm telling you, I really truly believe it's made a difference. It swayed some people in my favor to hire me simply because I wrote that book. So I would say, if you're thinking about doing it, it does, again, gives you credibility, and it's going to help you stand out.
And I mean, think of the name author, authority, right?
Exactly.
They go hand in hand. So thank you. I'm currently in the process of writing my book, my
Good
first
for
book.
you. Good
Thank
for you.
Thank you. I've been saying that for a while, though. It's coming.
It's a process. There's a lot of these programs out there, and I'm not going to speak badly about anyone, write a book in 30 days and, and it's not easy, and I want people to understand that. People try, oh, you just sit down and write the book. Let me tell you something. I'm a writer, right? Because I write all the time for media. My first book took me almost a year. My second book took me almost 2 years. It's a grueling process, and people need to understand that. It's not something you just sit down one day and in an hour you bang out. This is a representation of you. It's got your name on it. It might have your photo on it. So you really want it to be something that you're proud of.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Can't rush these things.
Yeah.
So thank you. And so now you've brought me to your second book. So let's talk about your second book, because that's really dear to my heart. So let's talk about your second book. First of all, can you show us the cover of
So
yours?
this is where if the children are home, maybe move them off the screen for a little bit.
Nobody with kids don't watch Dela's Voice.
Okay, so this is the second book. The title is Pull the Stick Out of Your ASS. Subtitle, Real Life Strategies to Help You Face Your Fears, Stop Your Worrying, and Live Your Best Life. And with this book, the media book, that was a very professional book. It was about my career. This one was very personal to me. It's about, my struggles, for years with mental health, specifically anxiety and panic attacks. And, I was silent for so many years. I didn't want people to know. I did everything possible to hide it. And then one day, a couple of years ago, it just hit me, where I'm like, I'm not doing anybody any good by just staying quiet. And I said, you know what? I'm a writer. I'm gonna write a book about my journey and everything that I went through. And, hopefully I can help somebody. The goal with that book, it wasn't to make money. It wasn't to become a bestseller. Really, it was just to hopefully get it in the hands of somebody who was struggling like I had for so many years, and just to kind of give them hope and share my experiences in hopes that it would, help them.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much, Bruce. First of all, thank you for writing that book. So what does the book talks about? Like, is it a story? What does it do for?
Sure. So it's a lot of, I think it's a couple of things. Number one, it is a lot of small stories, kind of interweaved into, or whatever the word is, woven into, some practical tips and takeaways that I think would help specifically with anxiety and panic attacks and just mental health in general. But it's also a very, what I would just call a good lifestyle book. I talk about a lot of things that really don't even have to do with mental health. Just talk about being a good, decent, nice human being, just something that I think we can all learn from. But really it's my story. It's, some of the stories, just throughout the years, things that I faced. I talk about how I overcame them, how I struggled through a lot of them, and even some things that I still struggle with. And as far as the name, people have always asked me, what is the name? Why did you go with the name? And here, let me just explain this, because I think this is a really important point. When I say pull the stick out, I'm certainly not trying to be disrespectful towards anyone, with a mental health condition. This is obviously something that's very serious and, in most cases needs to be treated by a professional. And so we're not trying to talk down about that. What it means is, at least the way that I perceive mental health, I've always looked at it as that there's a medical side to it, where we talk about things like, brain chemistry and chemical imbalances and things in the brain. And then there's more of a behavioral side to it, our thoughts, beliefs, actions, philosophies, behaviors. And really, when I say pull the stick out, it's aimed at that behavioral side, the things that we can learn to control, where we can just, make a decision to not let things bother us as much as they do. Stop being so uptight, don't be such a tightwad like I was for so many years growing up, and just pull that stick out, learn to loosen up, go with the flow, and enjoy life.
When did you first realize that you were going through struggles?
It really hit me after college, when I had just started my first real job. I think growing up, I was always that anxious kid. I was always that shy, quiet kid who just always worried about everything around me, always worried about even everything that wasn't around me, and that things that were outside of my control. But after college, I would say, is when it really, the brunt of it kicked in, where all of a sudden, I could just be sitting there and just start to feel, really anxious, and could never, what's going on? Why am I so anxious? What's going on? And then when it got really bad is when that anxiety turned into panic attacks. And, I always joke, you never forget the first time, and talking about the panic attack, you never forget your first one. And it's just, if you've never experienced one, and I don't wish it on my worst enemy, but it's just the scariest thing you can imagine. And especially when you don't know what's happening, especially when you don't know that you're having this panic attack, and you're just flooded with all these negative thoughts, and your heart's pounding, and you break out in a sweat, and you're shaking, and you just can't.
Yeah, your palms are sweaty.
Yeah, and you just can't slow down. You can't just get out of it, and you've just got this, what they call the fight or flight, sensation. It's like, I just gotta run somewhere, get somewhere safe. And for me, that was the emergency room, because at the time I didn't know I was having a panic attack. I thought, oh my God, I'm 20 something years old. I'm having a heart attack, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to pass out. I'm going to faint. I'm going to stop breathing. I got to get to my safe place. And I just kept bolting, for that emergency room. That was my sort of safe place. And then what happens, unfortunately, with these things is your world kind of becomes very limiting. It's like all of a sudden you just can't go out. It's not only I can't get to my job and work, I can barely, go down the street. I can't go into the grocery store. I can't go into the mall. I can't get on the airplane. I can't get on the ship. I can't, go, for me, it was like I could go a couple blocks from home. And then it was like, oh my God, if I'm too far away from home, what happens if I have one of these attacks and I can't get home and I can't get to the hospital? And it's just a very debilitating and very uncomfortable condition.
So what happened when you went to the hospital?
It's kind of funny, because when I went there, they must have known what was happening. I guess they took a look at me, and they first, they hook you up to the EKG, and I guess that's okay. And they did a whole bunch of, I'm getting poked all around. They're taking blood and everything. And I don't know, then they shot me up with some stuff and I was feeling pretty good. The panic attack went away, and I was like, wow, this feels pretty good. But they were very calm about it. And, I think that's because this is something that they have seen quite a number of times. I wasn't the first, and it wasn't my last. I was there a number of times where I would run there. And after a while, I think I started to get to know them. They're like, oh, here comes that guy again.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But no, they were certainly very helpful, but they recognized what was going on. And I'm glad they did, because I sure as heck did. And I thought it was more of a medical thing, because it does feel very medical-ish, if you will. Again, you're just out of control of your body. You feel like you're out of your body in a sense. And like I said, you're just all shaky and you can't breathe. You're real short of breath. And it's just the scariest thing.
It sure is. And you're right. For someone who doesn't know, that would be so scary. And I'm thinking, as a young kid who's just graduated college, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm so young for this. Like, what is happening to me? And so, how can we avoid this, Bruce? What do you think? Like, how can this be I'm not saying to prevent people from having anxiety attacks, but to really avoid this sort of confusion. How could this be avoided? How can we help that?
For me, I think that the biggest thing with anxiety, it wasn't just one or two things. For me, it was just a really big lifestyle change. Like I said, I should have seen this coming for years, because I was just always that very uptight, nervous personality where every little thing, just set me off. Every little thing put me into worry mode. And for me, there's been a lot of things that help, but just one of the biggest things that's helped me personally with anxiety and just made me feel so much better all around was just, I guess, kind of going back to the book title, was pulling that stick out, just learning to let go, let go of the things that you can't control, try to control the things that you can control. Obviously that's great, without, becoming a control freak, but really just learning to let go and just go with life, and just controlling your emotions, not trying to stress out, too much about things, or lose your cool when things go wrong. Because look, this is going to happen to everybody. I'm always going to be, we're all going to be in situations where things don't go our way, or we lose a battle, or whatever, something unfortunate happens. But it's really our reactions and how we can, just learn to react differently that would just help you, whether you've got anxiety or just in general. I think it's good advice.
So what are some instances when you still experience that sometimes?
Yeah, I still get that. For me, one of my tough ones still to this day, I've got two that I'm really trying to work with is number one is tall buildings. Getting up into a tall building is still really difficult for me. Once I get up there and I have a few minutes to walk around and just catch my breath, I'm okay. But and I actually like looking out, funny enough, but once, I walk into that building and getting up there, I hate getting up there. Getting up there by myself is a challenge. I always I'm always looking for that other person, someone ride up the elevator with me. I don't want to be the one, riding up there alone. That one, and believe it or not, and this surprises a lot of people, because they're like, well, you're in the media and you do public speaking, but groups of people, believe it or not, more socially, when I'm in a professional setting, I can kind of bluff my way through it because I can talk about my job, all day long. But when you just, get together like a casual group of friends, all of a sudden I'm like the quiet one. I go silent, and people are like, "You okay? Why are you so quiet?" And it's, and people are often surprised, but that's still a big one for me, believe it or not.
Wow. Have you had a lot of people approach you, Bruce, ever since you started talking about this? Because I can imagine how maybe in your profession you're trying to, keep a certain reputation and certain, name for yourself. And all of a sudden you come out and you share this with everybody. Listen, I get anxious when I'm in the elevator. I get anxious if I'm in a party setting. So have you had people approach you, and what have been some of the reactions?
Dela, that's the funniest thing. And I guess something that makes me feel really good in showing me that I'm not alone. Anybody who has ever approached me, the reaction has always been, my best friend also suffers from anxiety, or, I've got a sister, or, oh, my mom also has depression, or, I was always so afraid. The biggest thing for me was, what are people going to think of me? They're going to think different of me. They're going to look down on me. They're going to make fun of me. Number one, that's never happened. And number two, it's always where they come back and say, yeah, I too have been in that situation, or I know somebody. And that makes me, it really reinforces what I've always believed, that so many more people suffer with mental health. It's just that they're not willing to talk about it. Just like I didn't want to talk about it for years on end. But when you do talk about it, I swear to you, every time somebody says to me, oh yeah, my wife also suffers, my friend suffers, and it's just how common it really has become.
It's very common. Look, we have a visitor in our comment section. Robert J. Moore is watching.
Hey, Robert.
Thank you. He says, hi, hello, Dela and Bruce. I want to say I am at a high level because of Bruce's guidance with the media.
Yeah, it's a funny story. Robert and he came to me for help, but I think he actually ended up helping me more. I always tell this story at his events or whenever we do a call, Robert and I, but this was it must have been 3-4 years ago. I was introduced to Robert, and he came to me because he wanted help. He wanted to be in the media, right? He wanted to be on television and in print and online media. And I helped him with that. And then in typical Robert fashion, he starts, kind of talking to me about my business and, oh, what's working for you? What's not? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And he's like, you ought to coach people on how to get in the media. And I'll never forget, I said, oh my God, Robert, that's genius. I never thought about it, because people had always hired me up until that point to just, get them in the media. And he said, well, look, you just coached me. Why don't you create some kind of a coaching program, and it can be another stream of revenue? And it was one of the greatest things that I had ever done. And I wouldn't have thought about it if it wasn't for Robert. So it's always a funny little joke between us, how he came to me for help, but then I was the one who ended up getting, more of the help, I think. So I'm grateful to him for
that's
that
awesome.
Yeah.
Also Tammy Adalon is watching. Thank you so much. Oh, Robert also says that he worked in the mental health for 15 years, and most of it can be controlled if the therapist and the client have a good relationship. Otherwise, the therapist can enhance the client's awareness and teach them techniques to enhance what they need to do when they start feeling it.
Yeah, so true, and, we talk about therapists. I think, to Robert's point, that's really important, is to find somebody. If you decide to go down the therapy route, which I'm a huge supporter of, definitely find somebody that you click with, that you feel comfortable with, because you're sharing, your innermost problems and concerns. So definitely, make sure that you, to Robert's point, you do feel comfortable with this person. Great point.
Yeah, it is. I remember when I started opening up about what was going on in my life, that I found out exactly the same thing you just said, that everybody and their cousin is going through something very similar. It's like all of a sudden everybody's talking about it, but it's because you now opened up the door to sharing your story, and people are more comfortable sharing with you. And what happens in the process is I find that I found a lot of hope because I knew that I wasn't alone. So I don't know if that resonates with you.
It does. The more times I hear about it, the more people I hear speak openly about what they went through. It absolutely, it gave me hope, when I was, going through my worst times. And again, that's also why I wrote this book, was just to speak openly and to hopefully give people that message of hope. So just to know, and I guess it sounds so cliche to say, well, if I can do it, you can do it. But I really do believe that. I mean, I was pretty bad off when I was at my worst. And I really do believe that, trust me, if I can do this, if I can, slay this monster, trust me, you can do it. No matter what you're going through right now, there is always hope. You can get better. And I promise you that it is so much better. Just, work through it and get help, whatever that form of help is that works best for you. Just do it.
Is there a part of your book that is like your absolute favorite? If anyone said to you, Bruce, would you read me a paragraph of your book? And you say, oh, I know exactly which paragraph I'm going to read to you.
Wow, there's a couple. One of my favorite stories, and actually one of the ways that the book got titled the way it did is I start the book off in the introduction, and I tell this story how when I was 13 years old, I was at a camp dance, right? And again, I was just, a very nervous, uptight kid and teenager.
At 13, camp dance? Are you kidding? That's nerve-wracking.
That would be nerve-wracking for anyone. So I wasn't, very outgoing. I was always, the one to keep to myself. And I'm at this camp dance, and I'll never forget, this girl comes up to me and she taps me on the shoulder and she says, would you like to dance? And I'm like, wait, you must be talking to the guy over there. You're not talking to me, right? You don't want to dance with me. She's like, no, I'm talking to you, right? So I'm like, oh, that means I've got to go out on the dance floor and dance. And my friends are like egging me on, yeah, go do it. And I kind of make my way out there. I'm like, I don't know how to dance. I still don't know how to dance. And I get out there and I'm like, do, and it's not going well. And I can see it in her. And she just looks at me and she says, you've got to learn to loosen up. You've got to pull that stick out. And that's where the name came from. And I love that story.
And you never forgot that.
Never forget that. If she only knew that it led to a book, I'll tell you.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. This is what I learned too through my own recovery, was that you can't help anyone, Bruce, if they don't want to help themselves, right? You can't. You can really talk till you're blue in the face, but as long as that person is in denial, there's no way that you can help that person. And so for me, I was in denial for a very long time, and it wasn't until I admitted that there was something not working, that I needed to change something, that I started my recovery. So can I share something with you?
Absolutely.
I know this is your interview.
No, of course. Hey, it's your show.
Yeah, but I don't want to take advantage of that. But I think since we're talking on this, I have 3 A's for recovery. And so the first A is admit. Admit that there's a problem, that there's issues that you need to deal with. And now whether that's a mental health problem or something in your relationship or your career, whatever it is, admitting that the problem exists is a big step. The second A is for ask. So ask for help, ask for support, because you have no idea how many people are going through exactly the same thing. By hiding it, you're not doing anyone a favor. Like you said, right? You're not doing anyone a favor. And number 3 is act. So now once you've shared and you've asked and there's support, action is the last step, and that's when changes happen. And so you said that, my friend, you started taking care of yourself, right? You started pulling that stick out, and must have hurt.
But to your point, the first A really resonates with me too. Just like you, it was a very similar situation where I didn't want to admit it. Here I was in my young 20s. And my parents were just very, very great about everything, right? And they wanted to get me the help. They wanted to do anything just to help their little boy get better, right? And I was just in complete denial. I said, no, I'm not going to a therapist. I'm not taking medication. I'm fine. And of course, I knew I wasn't fine, but I've got to be I'm a guy, which I think made it a little harder. I'm all manly, I'm too macho. No, there's nothing wrong. I'm just, it's just a life change going through, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. It's all going to pass. And no, it wasn't until I just realized, I said, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep showing up in the emergency room. I can't keep having these panic attacks. I can't just, my world is shrinking, and I just finally had to admit it, and that's when it definitely started to get better.
Yeah, it's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you take care of yourself today?
Yeah, it's definitely very different from when I was 20, but the biggest thing for me is, and I think everybody says this to some point, definitely trying to watch what I eat, and trying to get exercise in, and that's tough as an entrepreneur, and you have your own company, but it is really, really important. But for me, the biggest thing that I try to do every single day, no matter how busy I am with work or my kids, is just try to take a little time for myself, whether that's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. It's just to try to take a little Bruce time, a little quiet time, where it's just me, myself, and I, and really I just sit there and veg out. No phones, no iPads, no computers, no television. I just like to usually at night before bed, it just relaxes me before I go to sleep, and just sit there. I let the dog in. He can sit there with me.
Yeah,
he's fun. But just sit there, and literally it's just silence. It's just quiet, but I just sit there, and it's just my me time to just unwind and just let the day. It's like a mental shower. It just everything wash away from me.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that, because it doesn't disappear, does it?
Doesn't. It doesn't. Even though I'm at this point where, mental health wise, I'm so much better off, I still have my days where, I feel anxious, or I just had a real long day and I'm stressed out, or even a little depressed over how things have gone. And I know I'm not in the best state. And I know by being proactive and taking time each and every day is a positive step in the right direction. That's just going to help me in the long run. It's going to help me, not have, those moments where I just crash and lose it, and I think that's important.
Oh,
Self-care.
yeah.
So
Yeah, you said it, proactive, right? That's the key word, proactive.
You gotta be. You can't wait for it to spiral out of control. You have to do, even when I'm feeling good, I still take, that time to myself, because if I don't, then I know it's going to get bad.
Yeah,
Proactive.
sure,
Absolutely.
sure. Bruce, who has been the biggest influencer in your life?
Wow.
I know. I like to jump from here to there.
Seriously, we're all over.
You out here.
We're all over the place. Definitely in terms of, I guess in terms of my personal life, or at least with mental health, it's definitely been my parents. It's definitely been my wife, who have all been extremely supportive, in my recovery and in my journey to getting better. They were there 20 something years ago when I was at my worst, couldn't barely work, could barely go out of the house, and they stuck by me and got me the help I've needed. And, I guess professionally, it's just, it's been all the great mentors and great people that I've worked with, over the years, who've kind of just showed me the ropes. Hey, Robert J. Moore, for instance, I would say it's just, anybody who's just, they're always, and that's what I love about entrepreneurs, is that, they're always willing, or at least, the majority of them are always willing to just, no matter how far you've come, no matter how far they've come, there's always something that can be learned from someone else. And so many of them have just extended that hand and let me show you a different way, or a better way.
Do you agree that there's no way that we can do this on our own?
Oh, 100%. And that's also, I think, what was tough for me is I'm the type of person, I like to do things all by myself. Like if you just want to give me something, I love to just jump in, even if I don't know what I'm doing, which isn't really smart, and just, figure it out. That was just my personality, which probably isn't the surprise with all the mental health, because we like to just take everything on and do everything on, ourselves. I get great satisfaction, taking on a project and just doing it all by myself. Something about that, whether it's a work project, whether it's just painting a room, whatever it is, I love to take something on and say, I did this all by myself.
I know. I'm going to figure it out.
But at the same time, I'm not young and stupid anymore. And I've realized that, look, if you work as a team and you work with the right people, things get done a lot quicker, a lot easier, and the results are almost always a lot better. So I'm all for teamwork and working with the right groups of people.
Awesome. You mentioned something. You said being a man, and so I want to go back to that because there are a lot of men who might be needing the help, but they are refusing to ask for the help. And I mean, we know why. Right? You're the man. You got to be macho. Boys don't cry. Like all that stuff that has been hacked in our brain ever since we were kids. What is your best advice to a man, to a brother who who's watching this, and what do you got to say?
Pull the stick out. Here's the thing. It's just get over that, because when I was at my worst, and even now, the toughest thing for me is I would always hear, well, anxiety is a woman's condition, or they would say, well, it's always 4 out of 5 women who suffer with anxiety. And I'm like, well, that's great. Sure, make me feel real good. I'm the one guy, right? But the reality is, I don't believe that those statistics are so correct. I think it's that the men are afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to come forward. And I don't know that it's all women, because I've met many guys over the years, certainly once you come out with your story, who, oh yeah, I've got that too, or I've got something similar that I deal with. So I'm pretty confident that this is not just all women. There are plenty of men. And I would say, look, I was just as guilty as anybody, and I didn't want to talk about it, but that's why I came forward. And my message to men is just, put down we all guys like to be macho and Mr. Tough Guy. And I'm still like that with a lot of things. But when we're talking about something as important as your mental health, which these days, it really has become, in many cases, a life or death thing, unfortunately. This is serious business. It's not something you want to take lightly. And let me tell you, it's not going to get better on its own. You have to get help for it. And like you said, that first A is admitting it. And I would just encourage you, I don't care how manly of a man you are, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is a condition. It's like breaking an arm. It's like having heart disease. It's like having diabetes. So maybe you can't physically see it, but it is just as real and just as impactful on the quality of your life. So please get help.
Oh my gosh, such a powerful statement right there.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: if you're a man and you're going through something like this and you're trying to hide it, obviously you can't hide the side effects. You can't hide what's going to happen as a result of you not feeling your best. And guess what? Your family's suffering anyways, right? And so, but you're miscommunicating what is really happening, because they have no idea. They don't understand it. They don't know what's going on in your head. And so they're probably thinking, oh, you're a jackass, or, oh, I said it. Oops.
That's okay.
Or you're mean, or you're a bad father, or you're a bad husband, right? But that's not true. That's not true. So to your point, just admitting it and getting help, and the more you can take care of yourself, the better you can take care of the people around you.
Yeah, that's the thing. You think that you're going to be able to fake it or hide it, and maybe you will for a certain amount of time, but eventually people are going to catch on. Like, I can't remember, but back in the beginning, where friends would say to me, hey, let's go out, right? Let's go grab lunch. Let's go grab dinner. Let's go to the club. Let's do whatever. And I was, oh my God, I can't go. What if I have a panic attack? What if I freak out? What if they see me? And I'd come up, oh, I can't, I'm busy that night. Or, oh, I can't, I got to do this with this person. Or I already have plans. And after a while, it's like, you've been putting me off. You've been denying me for months now. What's really going on? People catch on. So eventually, you can't hide it forever. And like you were saying, they're going to think, what's with this guy? Why does he not like me? Did I do something? Why is he such a, like you said, jackass? What's the deal here?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And that's what I found. People are understanding. If you just explain it, hey, look, I'm going through something right now. I'm dealing with this. And, if somebody is a true friend, right? They're not going to turn their back on you because, I've got anxiety. They're not going to say, I'm not going to be your friend because you have anxiety. Or I'm never going to talk to you again because you've got depression. If they do that, well, they're not a friend to begin with.
Yes.
So if they're a true friend, you have nothing, to lose by coming forward and just everything to gain.
So important to have, excuse me, the support of people you trust around you, right? At least one. So we have a viewer, Nasser John. He lives in California, actually. He says, why humanity suffers more and more. So why does humanity suffer more and more from mental health as technology improves? What do you think? Does humanity suffer more and more from mental health as technology?
I mean, I agree that I think, look, technology has its place. It's wonderful and it's done a lot of good, but at the same time, there are times I hate my phone. I hate, people being able to get a hold of me every, single second of the day. I think it certainly has taken away from our ability to connect with people and to interact with people on a more personal level. But then I would say on the flip side, one thing that I do think is that I've seen that I think is great about technology with mental health is, now you've got these apps where they can actually do telemedicine and, okay, you can't, maybe let's say you're housebound, right? And you can't make it to the therapist's office. Well, you can do telehealth sessions now. And I've seen, I can't remember the names of them, but I've seen these, you see them on Facebook, these ads for where you can just connect to a therapist online, 24/7. If you're going through a crisis, whether you're thinking of taking your life, whether you're feeling real depressed, having a panic attack, you can just hop online and connect with somebody instantly, which I think is a huge benefit of technology. It's not, I've got to pick up the phone and make an appointment to see my therapist, a week from now. And, when I'm going through my main issue, I can do that at this very second. So I think definitely technology has helped in that regard. But I do see the point that, just in general, I think we've become less of a people society or that interaction. I think it definitely has taken away from that aspect of life.
So as you mentioned, excuse me, I got something in my throat. Emergencylifecoach.com is another one of those platforms where you can reach them 24/7. And they have coaches available to talk to you like right away, and you can talk to them. So Nasser also says 50 years ago mental health was not as serious as it is today, or so it seems.
Or so it seemed. I don't know. I wasn't around 50 plus years ago, but
right. What's your take on that?
Maybe there is something to that. Maybe there's not. I really don't know. I mean, it could be a combination of things. Look, medicine, science, psychology, it's certainly all gotten a lot better, in the last 50 years. And we certainly know a lot more about, mental health and mental illness, than we did, even 50 years ago. So, look, is it possible that it did exist back then and just it wasn't recognized as well as it is today, or it wasn't as treatable as it is today? Absolutely. I wouldn't be shocked that people, had anxiety, panic attacks, depression, bipolar disorder, whatever it was, even 50 years ago. I just think, again, we've just gotten so much better at recognizing it and treating it. But then, to that point, maybe you could say, well, life wasn't as hectic and stressful, and maybe life was easier back then, and maybe there wasn't this uptick in mental health conditions like we see today. I don't know.
So was my grandfather suffering from bipolar, or was he just a mean son of a gun? Who knows, right? So
know.
Because if that was clear, then people would not have been reacting in the way they did. So you're so right. But at the same time, I agree with you. Well, for sure, I feel like we, like you said, our people skills maybe dropping a little bit because we're not really talking one-on-one. Our kids are on the phone, and that's how they are communicating. So, right?
It's right. I mean, look, you even think about, this might sound a little stereotypical, but it'll serve the point. You think about, watching, the families grow up 20, 30 years ago, where they sit down at the dinner table and they actually have conversations and hear about, each other's days and talk about, just talk as a family. And, these days it's all everybody's, onto their devices while they're, eating their food, and the TV's on, and, so it's just a very different culture. Even, the culture has just changed tremendously. And that could very well be a very big part in all of this too. Sure.
Yeah. So what do you want to leave our audience with today, Bruce? What is it you want them to remember this interview with?
I would say, from the mental health side of it, again, not to sound like a broken record, but again, mental health, whether it's anxiety, depression, whatever it is, this is, very common these days. And yeah, we still have a lot to do, a lot of work to do to overcome stigma and move forward as a society. But we've made a tremendous amount of progress. But the biggest takeaway, again, like we said, is just, it's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be embarrassed about. And just please, I don't care if it's a friend, a spouse, a stranger, whoever it is, a professional of any type, just talk to somebody, just reach out and take the first step to getting help, because it doesn't typically get better on its own.
Yeah, it doesn't go away.
No.
You can't make it go away if you're not taking care of it. There's lots of people watching, Bruce. I just want to acknowledge our audience here. Patty, they just joined us. Thank you. Lucy, Ruth, and Robert J. Moore, who's been supporting us all through the show, sending us lots of love and lots of acknowledgement. He also said, "You are both friggin' rock stars."
Thank you, Robert.
So thank you so much, everybody who's watched today. Thank you, Bruce. I've got a frog in my throat. I don't know what's happening here, but I want to thank you so much for giving us your time. You're an awesome guy. You are touching the world with everything you're doing, whether it's your role as a publicist, bringing light onto people who are trying to shine their light, or whether it's to bring some light into mental health. And I thank you for this. I appreciate you. You are a superhero in my book, Bruce. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dela. Thank you.
Can you hold up your book so people could see it?
Sure, we got the two of them right here.
Mm-hmm. So we've got Bruce's first book, which is the 30. Could you read that? Sorry.
Sure. It's 30 reasons the media is ignoring you. Deathbed Confessions of an Award-Winning Publicist. And then we've got the Pull the Stick Out of Your ASS. And the subtitle, it's a mouthful. I still don't even remember it. It's
I love I can say it. Okay. Real life strategies to help you face your fear. Woo, woo, woo.
I told you it's a mouthful.
I know. And then okay, to help you face your fears.
Face your fears, stop your worrying.
And live your best life. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Bruce. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
I hope
Dela.
to meet you one day very soon in Toronto at one of the events here.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Yay. Thank you. And for everybody else who's tuned in to watch us, thank you for giving us your time. Please share this video with people who you think would benefit from the knowledge shared. Take what you need and leave the rest. And as always, this is Dela, hoping to spark your soul. Till next time. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank
Bye.
you.